welcome to our Thursday night live here on Inside Texas, joined by Mr. Chris Marler. Some of you on YouTube may not know this guy. He threw the horns up,
That's
but
right.
he covers at least half of the teams in the SEC. He's probably picked up a few more now in the offseason to talk about here, but no, does a great job. Obviously, Texas fans on X probably pretty familiar with the guy as they are waged
What?
in war almost on a weekly basis, and so
No.
yeah, let's call it real.
What
Let's
did
be
I
real.
say recently that was bad about Texas? I'm very high on them next year.
Dude, you could say anything and people would turn around and get on you just because of things you said in the past. And
Fair.
again, Chris is hilarious. If you're not following on X, you're missing out on a lot of great content. Real quick, guys, hop on over to Inside Texas. We still have the $1 for a new member sale. Take advantage of that and come hang out with us. It's going to be a long off season for us all, but come spend it over with the guys at Inside Texas, giving you the best content for Texas sports. Got a couple guys in the house already. Appreciate you being here, guys. Mr. Mikado, it's always good to see your name pop up. But all right, Chris, it's the off season. So we're going to be doing this, tons of long, drawn out content.
Yeah.
What if this school does that? How will this look, et cetera, et cetera. But it is list season, and we kind of talked about this on the channel last night. You're going to see a list every day. You're great at making lists. I actually respect some of your lists. You do a good job. Very honest. And I don't think you're trying to draw interaction or clicks is the main thing because people like to put Texas in some of these lists. Maybe rankings higher than we should be to draw interaction. Sometimes it's most overrated, hot seat for coaches, etc. But I want to talk to you about pressure. All right,
Yeah.
Texas is under a lot of pressure. For one, it's year 6 under Steve Sarkisian. You've been knocking on the door. You've got Arch Manning at quarterback, and you're fresh off a season in which I think it's universally believed and accepted that you underachieved. My argument is as much pressure as Texas may be feeling, Sark may be feeling. Are there other schools in the SEC whose pressure maybe rivals Texas already, like a Brent Venables at Oklahoma, a Josh Heupel, Lane Kiffin in year 1 at LSU? Probably not the
Yeah.
same type of pressure, but everybody has pressure, yeah?
Let me push back on what you just said for a second. I don't know if Texas underachieved last year. You think about what they lost to the NFL draft. And I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion with Texas fans or media because as I have stated over and over and over again, those are one and the same. And I love you guys to death, but no one goes hard outside of girls for their hairdresser and that one weirdo at the beginning of Chief Keef Love Sosa. No one goes harder for something than Texas media does for Texas and Arch Manning. I was never bought into it last year because it was like, hey, man, there's just so many new things. And you think about Texas going into last year where they had 23 guys in the draft for the two previous years combined. That's new to Texas under Sarkisian. It's what they expect maybe, but that's not the production they had. And they had so much to replace in the trenches on the offensive and defensive lines. And still had a lot of talent, don't get me wrong, but with a schedule like that in the SEC and Ohio State on the road to start the year, I don't think 9-3 was ever far-fetched. Now, you can sit here and say they shouldn't have lost to Florida, and you'd be right, but they also probably shouldn't have beaten Mississippi State or maybe even Kentucky. So I honestly think 9-3 was good for them last year. I will also say this. Nick Saban used to always say this, and I'm a firm believer in it. Never waste a loss. And Texas gets to go into this season with a massive, massive chip on their shoulder from everything that happened last year that they didn't live up to their own expectations inside of the four walls of that locker room. So that part – I'm very excited about Texas this year. And I don't think I'm necessarily right a bunch, but last year I was not super high on them. I did think A&M was going to be way better than people think. But I'm reversing that this year in terms of I think this is the year where Texas is going to be able to compete for an actual title and not have any of the setbacks they had a year ago. Now, from a pressure standpoint, Sark is under pressure primarily because the Arch thing is going into is this year 4?
The Arch thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Damn. Time flies when you're just making millions of dollars in NIL and college football. That's crazy. It's already year 4 for him. But I love what they did in the portal. I love they got Hollywood Smothers. I like that kid from Arizona State as well. The big thing for me is Texas offense it's everyone looks at it and thinks, man, they're going to put up a bazillion yards through the air and all these receivers they've had that gone to the NFL and these, elite guys and the quarterbacks, the 5-stars, all that kind of stuff. But really it's predicated on the run for his offense. And they've had 2,400 yards or more in most or every season he's been there until last year where they fell off a cliff. I think that changed this year. I think they are a lot better. Now, from the other side of the pressure, like the other pressures around the SEC, like in the background, you can see the South Carolina stuff for the Gamecocks that I cover. They are under Shane Beamer's under a lot of pressure because he is, I think, on the hottest seat of anyone in the conference going into this season. The other one you mentioned, I think LSU is the one that's more interesting, probably to Texas fans. One, because they play each other, and two, because as much as I love covering South Carolina, LSU is a much more entertaining team and a team that tends to compete for more than South Carolina. I've heard around here in Baton Rouge, where I live, um, people saying, "Well, Kiffin, he might not win one in year one, but you got to give him time." And it's like that's insane to me. There's no chance that you're telling me you're going to give him $40 million and basically an open checkbook to go to the portal and sign 3 of the top 4 players overall and all these like elite talent, like up and down the roster. And keep in mind this too, Cord. He had the number 1 transfer portal class, 3 of the top 4 players, and they're all at the most important position: quarterback, left tackle, and rushing the quarterback, the edge rusher.
Yep.
On top of that, the retention from last year: former 5-star DJ Pickett at corner, Whit Weeks at linebacker, escaped the Waffle House storage room. That sounds lovely, to be honest. I would love to be at a Waffle House right now. I might get that for dinner. Thanks, Jack. That's a good call. But so that guy's returning, and then on top of that, you think about what they combined with the what do you call it, the incoming freshman, former 5-stars on the defensive line. They have everything in place to win a national title, and compete for a national title. But the idea that this is like, well, he's going to need time to get his feet wet, and like the expectation at LSU should be championship or bust in year one, because again, this isn't Texas. This isn't Texas Tech. This isn't A&M. This isn't Oregon. It's hard for a lot of other colleges to go pass the hat back around and ask for the same, if not more money, season after season, especially if you don't live up to the expectations that are set for them.
I mean, people act like Lane Kiffin hasn't been doing this dance before already
Right.
at Ole Miss. The whole portal, the overturn of the roster. And with a lot of these schools nowadays, you're seeing the same type of number overturn. You're replacing 2 to 3 dozen players, and you're having to get these guys gelled and mesh, and a lot of them are having decent going away now. Some are having decent non-conference opponents, and you have to be ready to play, because obviously the committee is favoring the wins. And I think LSU obviously is built to compete at the top. And again, we can talk about Lane Kiffin, we can talk about this whole conference forever, but I definitely have a few more questions for you regarding Texas here. And I want to talk about the portal moves, because you and I haven't really had a chance to sit down and do that yet. But obviously talk about skill position, you probably not get out of the ballpark. I think that'd be a consensus for most. Definitely want your thoughts. But you had Hollywood Brown. Sorry, good Lord, I did it again. Hollywood Smothers. That guy tortured us. I'm so tired of watching Hollywood Brown run around. I got his name, got Gus Johnson screaming his name in my ears for eternity. You have Hollywood Smothers. You have Raleek Brown. He had a Cam Coleman, obviously. What were your thoughts there? And did Texas maybe do enough on the offensive line to really? I mean, you said you're high on Texas. Like, obviously, you're going to be high on what they did in the offseason.
So I don't know enough of what they did on the offensive line. I would think that it has to get better than it was a year ago. But again,
can't be worse.
The way I look at stuff is that, like, dude, you lost Kelvin Banks Jr., who might have been the best left tackle in the country 2 years ago. He's a top 10 overall pick. That is a great point, by the way, from Alan. That's the perfect description. But you lost him to the draft, and so he leaves. You replaced, I think, a couple other guys off that offensive line. I know you did on the interior defensive line, and I thought it might have been enough, because you had guys at every single level that were some of the best, I thought, in at least the conference, if not the country, right? Like, at linebacker and edge rush, and like all those things were definitely in place this past season. I think my big thing is they are not going to struggle to run the football this year. I mean, to see that you've had a 1,000-yard back every year that Sark's been there, this year I think the leading rusher was at 598 yards. Like, that is such a massive drop off. Some of that's injury, some of that is just like, more of it by committee. But when you still look at, you had you had less than 1,800 yards total in an offense that has gotten 2,400 or more every single year Sark had been there before last year. That put a lot of pressure on Arch Manning, like a lot of unfair pressure. And I think that he's probably used to the pressure a little bit, because he's been hearing about he's the next great one since he was probably 8 years old. But also there's still a learning curve. Like just because your last name is Manning does not mean there isn't a learning curve for you to come in as a first year starter. Look at what Peyton did in 1995 in his freshman year. Like he was not great at times, or like 94, whichever. I think 94 was his freshman year. But either way, there's a learning curve, and so I think he is now in a place where this is his team. He feels a lot more comfortable. I thought you could see it towards the back end, and when that dude's playing with confidence, like he was in the bowl game, and you can sit here and say it's a meaningless bowl, whatever. It was not a meaningless bowl to Michigan. I can guarantee you that. Anytime that team plays an SEC team, especially, I loved what I saw from him. I think he's way tougher than people realize. I honestly think he might have been injured to start the year, just the way he was delivering the football and his arm slot mechanics, the way he was throwing. But I think he's fully healthy. And you gave him Jeremiah Smith is the best receiver in college football. You gave him number 2, and it's like Jeremiah Smith and then Cam Coleman. I don't want to say 1A, 1B, but it's pretty damn close when you start letting that guy kind of live up to the potential he has. And we've seen receivers in Sark's offense for years now, dating back to when he was the OC at Bama. I mean, those guys eat, and Cam Coleman's going to eat in this offense.
And that's well said, man. And I have a lot of thoughts on feel very similarly, but I'll get to that in 1 second. We're gonna hear a quick word from Andre the lawyer, and we'll be right back.
Texans know when you're injured, there's one name that gets results: Andre the lawyer. Trust the team that has secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans win their injury cases. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, wrongful deaths. Don't let the insurance companies tell you what your claim is worth. Andre the lawyer will fight for you. His principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait. Call 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. Contact info is in the description.
All right, brother. You mentioned, Arch being a little bit tougher than people may think he is, and I think we really saw that in the Florida game. You know what I mean? That dude took shot after shot after shot, got back up time after time, and then played a very physical, aggressive Oklahoma defense, took some more shots, but did a really, really good job of kind of maybe slowing down. To me, maybe he was hurt, but to me, it was just his mental process was way too sped up. He was going through progressions without actually seeing anything at all, flying through it, a little bit too quick, flush in the pocket, things like that. But part of me wonders if in fall camp, he saw the unit in front of him. And, again, you see a lot of defensive lines and defensive front sevens having their way with offensive lines and with the running game and in camp or, you call it training, whatever you want to call it, there in August, late July, you see that. You hear it, you read about it. But the way that Arch Manning threw the ball, you call it the yips, possibly maybe he was hurt. Again, I think it was more the yips. I think it was what you said. Mechanics completely broke down.
Yeah.
And you saw plays in the Ohio State game. You saw plays in San Jose State. Florida played pretty well. Kentucky regressed a lot, in my opinion, compared to how they played against Florida and Oklahoma. And when I say Texas underachieved, I will say I had 9-3 as the floor. I've said that a lot. Continue to pat myself on the back about it because everybody screams, hey, y'all all said 12-0 and 11-1. Not proud about it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
9-3 was always a possibility because of what you said. You're replacing 23 draft picks in the 2 years previous to last season. That's a lot of talent, a lot of experience, and a lot of results to take over. You have to find new leaders. Again, you have to be good in the trenches. Texas was not. So what Texas did, they took left tackle from Wake Forest, Melvin Siani. He's going to play right tackle. They're sliding Brandon Baker. I don't know if you followed him much throughout the second half of the season, but I thought he made as much, if not more, progress than any other Texas lineman except for Trevor Gooseberry at left tackle. And they're going to slide. So Baker's down to playing right guard. You added Dylan Sikorsky from Oregon State. It's probably going to be a depth piece at left guard. You're returning the same center. And then now they're waiting on the eligibility or in the waiver report from Lawrence Seymour, who would probably immediately be our starter at left guard. So like you said, it's got to be better, right? And they've done a little bit. Texas fans are a little skittish. They haven't done enough. I think that we're a little bit on ice as far as trusting the staff, particularly Kyle Flood in this offensive line, considering, the way that it looked last year. But overall, like I said in the very beginning, I think other schools have just as many issues, if not more.
God.
Yeah, I mean, you look across the board, and that's a modern day era. But
Yeah.
I want to pick your brain about Oklahoma for 1 second. All
Well,
right.
hold on real quick. I just want to,
Okay.
I'm going to out myself on this. I was not super in touch or in tune with the guard play for Texas last year. So that did go over my head. But I will tell you, the kid from Wake Forest is going to be a stud. That kid is a plug and play. He's going to be very, very good. And I did love the point you made about like in this day and age of college football, the thing that concerns me the most is if you've seen this time and time again, like how many 5-stars has Texas signed that were busts? Because I've seen Bama do it a ton of times. I've seen it happen for every program that's signed a 5-star. There's the chance they don't end up being the
Mhm.
stud that they were projected to be out of high school. You have so much turnover in college football now, so much turnover now each and every single year. And if you miss on some of these guys who might have been really good in a lesser conference, and then they come to the SEC or just something happens, like God forbid there's injuries or whatever, there's just so many moving parts and potential things that are impactful to a season. So I think that makes me believe more in Texas also, because in comparison to some of the other teams around the SEC, they didn't have as much turnover. Like the turnover that I was most concerned about for Texas this year was the running back position, because they got gutted at the running back position in the portal, and they ended up signing the top 2 backs or 2 of the top 3. So it's like they've done a tremendous job there.
And that's one thing that we had, kind of talked about in the last 2 seasons. Texas didn't really have that standard of Texas back that we were all used to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because Cal Flood and Steve Sarkisian didn't have incredible lines in 2021, 2022, but you had a Bijan Robinson, and then you're turning around and you're wearing defenses out with him, and then you're handing it off to a Roshan Johnson who was tough as nails. And again, you're playing Big 12 defenses. You're not playing SEC defenses. And then you had other guys like a Keelan Robinson and Jaden Blue who were very, very damn fast, like next level fast. And so just schematically, they were tough to deal with. You had a little bit of a hammer and nail situation, before Cedric Baxter really kind of got set back with his injuries. Jonathan Brooks was really good. But then all of a sudden, that Texas running back room just it hadn't looked the same. And that's no disrespect to Trey Wisner or Christian Clark or Gibson or any of the guys that are a part of it. It looks a little bit more explosive now. Home run hitter ability, absolutely something Texas didn't have last year that they have now. But yeah, I want to pick your brains on Oklahoma real quick. Obviously, you return John Mateer. O-line play can't be as bad as it was. Kind of same scenario for Texas. Can't be as bad for those guys as it was last year, right? Upgraded the wide receiver room a little bit, in my opinion. I don't know if it's enough really to compete the way they want to compete. But then the defensive side of the ball, I mean, that's Venables, and that's where he shines. Chance they're better on that side of the ball as well, or what are you thinking just overall, and then particularly on Venables' side as well?
So I said that they would take a step back defensively because they were ranked in the top 7 nationally in like 3 of the 4 major categories defensively, and they got they.
Dude, you got to rep. You got to roll with it now, big dog.
That's crazy. I just objectively like to talk about college football, and also not a horn hater, just the media. Like and not you, but whatever. We're not gonna get into this again.
You hate me.
But I think that Oklahoma, I think they'll be good. It's hard to really think about which teams are gonna like excel, and because I think everyone's gonna be so much closer to each other in this year because the 9 conference games for one. They do have a tough game on the road. Maybe Michigan. I thought they caught Michigan at a really good time this year because you got them at home. They had a true freshman quarterback. That should be a little bit better next year, but they do have a new coach. My big thing for Oklahoma is if Mateer can be good like he was in September, yeah, man, the sky's the limit. Like if he can figure it out, the sky's the limit. We haven't seen him figure it out, not against any good teams. And I mean, you saw he was bad against Bama in both of those games. I mean, he was he won one of them. But you saw what happens when you don't catch, if you have one wide open drop and your kicker isn't, like perfect from 50 plus. That's the best kicker in America at any level, apparently. But I think they should be good. I'm not a huge believer in Brent Venables. I thought a lot of things had to go right for him last year. Now it's a tremendous job. They did a great job. I thought they did, in my opinion, better in the portal than anyone else is giving him credit for, because they just didn't lose anybody of significance. Like there was just they might have lost a couple of guys that maybe would have been rotational in their two deep, but they didn't lose any significant starters that are going to, like, you look at them like, damn, like that sucks that we're not going to have that guy next year. When you look around the SEC, you could make the case that they're the only ones that didn't have that. Maybe Georgia, off the top of my head, just because I know that Georgia traditionally doesn't lose a ton of guys. But I mean, so from that standpoint, I'm not super worried about it. The other part of it too, Cord, is that, like, we put so much focus and being prisoners of the moment of it, like, about the portal. And, like, if you didn't do great in the portal, if you didn't strike gold in the portal, like, you're not going to compete next year. And I don't personally think that's like the end all be all of how to compete at this level. Like, it's a very big component of it. But I thought they made some really good additions. I just am not sold that Arbuckle and Mateer are as elite as everyone said. I said this going into last year. Mateer was really good at Washington State because he was playing at Washington State against Washington State's schedule. They had one game against Power 4 competition. Everyone kept saying, well, if they can get September Mateer back. Well, September Mateer played Michigan against a true freshman quarterback, Temple on the road, by the way, for some unknown reason, and an FCS school. So it's like, you're not going to get that version of him. And I thought Arbuckle, I feel like I don't know if I need to mince my words or not, but that is the most overrated hire, I think, of the entire offseason last year, about how much of an offensive genius he was. I will once again say this. They had a great season. But if you don't cheat the system on your trick play against Auburn, we're not having a conversation at all about y'all making the playoff at all. Like, I mean, like when they played good teams and those good teams didn't throw pick sixes and fumble repeatedly like Alabama, they lost those games. And so I don't know if Venables is really going to make some significant jump again and kind of copy paste what he did a year ago.
It's all going to come down to Mateer. I mean, like you kind of said, I mean, we know what we're going to get in a Venables defense. Like, they're going to be good. They're going to create a lot of tackles for loss and negative plays. They didn't force a ton of turnovers until the second half of that season, but the offense, that's the thing. And a lot of times, we get picked on. Well, if Mateer was healthy against Texas, we'd have beat y'all. It wasn't even his inability to throw the football as far as just his overall decision making and where he threw the football.
Didn't they lose 23-6?
Yeah. And
was it close?
I mean, now that you're going to get them riled up talking about the punt return and the non-called block in the back, but I guess, again, non-called block in the back. There's no block in the back.
Those are all 17-point difference makers.
Of course. But again, thank God it didn't come down to field goal kicking, like you said, because that guy is a legend. But it's hard to trust Mateer in 1 year. Like, for me, mechanically, it really looks like he struggles to layer throws. Anytime he really has to layer one, he kind of underthrows it or just sells it way, way too high. And you see him do that if you go watch tape time and time again. He can throw a vertical. If he just has to fit the ball into a tight spot, he's capable of doing that. I mean, I think, like you said, Sooner
great athlete.
Still talking about that September throw versus Michigan down the sideline. They'll probably be talking about it, and for forever. I hope that's the only highlight you see on his draft when he's eventually drafted, or if he's drafted. I need that to be his only clip. But again, so I mean, I could see Oklahoma competing to win 9 games again, or to win 110. I think last year I said their ceiling was 9 wins. They're going to have to win a lot of close games, the same way that Texas won some close games last year, just at their 9-game mark. And so I was just curious. We got a few more minutes left, guys, but we're going to hear from David McClellan first. We'll be right back.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
All right, Mr. Marler. I want to ask you about Texas A&M and Mike Elko, but first, I mean, this is a good point by Mr. Randy, because if you'd have known us and hung out with us a lot, and I feel like I followed you for a decade, but if we'd have really interacted and stuff while Texas was in the mud for a while, dude, you would hate us more than you might hate some.
Y'all the same?
Oh, we're worse.
Oh,
We're
no.
worse. I thought we were worse. You know, and I just, because you had the same people getting faux excited, knowing that they're like at least like now you can be like, oh yeah, Texas can go win at Athens if this goes well and this goes well.
Yeah.
We're able to turn our first script goes for 7 points and not 3 points. And I mean, and then you see the game's 14-10 in the fourth quarter, and you're like, I wasn't entirely wrong. But bro, we lost to Kansas twice in 5 years. I mean,
I remember that. I brought that up multiple times. But see, here's what I also mean by like, I'm not. This is gonna sound defensive, but I'm just like, I'll say it anyway. Like, you remember when y'all went to Tuscaloosa, and from the summer of that year, I was like, Texas is gonna win that game by 10 plus points. Like, Bama's still gonna be trying to figure out who their quarterback is. Like, they're gonna, like, they don't know what these new starters are gonna look like. Texas is gonna come in with Steve Sarkisian and that offense, and they're gonna win by 10 plus points. And I think they won by 10. But like, again, I don't. It's like, it's the same thing with Georgia and Tennessee. I love Josh Heupel. I love watching his offense. I don't have anything necessarily against Tennessee. Tennessee fans can sometimes be the worst. And sometimes, like, when I was at media days in Atlanta and talking to the Texas fans, and it's not fair to like paint it with such a broad stroke over everybody. That's my fault. But being there at media days and seeing how many Texas people were there and watching them react to Arch it was wild, dude. It was I'm old, so I remember the boy band craze, and it was about as close to a bunch of middle school girls reacting to like Justin Timberlake and JC's like new teen bop video, or what do you call it, magazine, than it was anything else.
I just know they weren't inside Texas, guys. I'll just say that. I'll leave it at that. Yeah, 11 years of wandering that desert. You know, we come back, we're a little excited. You know what I mean?
As you should be, dude. And listen, you won in 2005. That's got to be the only one of your lifetime. Texas is so good enough to go on a run, but there's also something very, very special about watching that happen for the first time. And I'm not to bring up sore memories, but like, I remember watching my team have that happen in the late 2000s. Is all I'll say, so I don't trigger anybody. But and it's just really watching Indiana this past year, and I know that like the wandering in the desert for Texas fans, they're ready for that to come to an end. I still believe that Sark is the guy that can make that happen.
I fully agree with you. We need the NFL teams to leave him alone, and just need a little bit better O-line play, a little more red zone success. But yeah, real quick, man, we'll get you out of here. But I want your thoughts on A&M real quick. I mean, again, we'll have you back on the channel before the season kicks off, of course. But as far as what they've done in the portal, they lost a lot of cats on that offensive line. They did pick up a lot of experience through the portal with the offensive line. Elko's defenses have seemed to crumble a bit, obviously, late October and throughout November. And then you have Marcel Reed, who I was of the opinion A&M should have gone out and got themselves a transfer portal quarterback just to push Marcel. Not saying this is a start, but to at minimum push the guy. Because when he kind of has a bad game, man, it is really, really bad. A&M becomes very, very, simple on offense. If he can't really attack down the field, man, that's one of my big issues with him.
We're going to go over, so I'm warning you now, because I have a lot of feelings on A&M.
Okay, fair.
Let's start last year. Last year, I was like very high on A&M because of the way the schedule set up. They played one of the easiest schedules in the SEC. It was a lot like Texas in 2024. That's neither here nor there. But that obviously worked out in Texas's favor, and that's fine. They're not in control of their schedule. But the same was for A&M last year. They didn't play Bama. They didn't play Georgia. They did play LSU, but LSU was a huge, huge failure. They didn't play Ole Miss. They didn't play Oklahoma. That's pretty. You had 5 teams that made the college football playoff, and in the regular season, how many of them they play? They played none of them. That's pretty impressive and incredible to be able to do that. Watching A&M last year, dude, what he throws the ball. He throws the ball like a catch. Like, do you remember when Jorge Posada had to play second base for an inning?
Oh,
and he had no clue on how he was just like firing from his ear.
Yep.
That's That's how he throws the football. Every time I watch him, I'm like, why are you throwing it so hard on this weird, like, little 3-yard hitch that you're trying to turn into a screen? So with A&M last year, they had 177 combined starts on the offensive line going into that Miami game. 177. That's gone. I love the kid they got from Bama. I think that kid can be very, very good. LSU went after him hard last year and made him a really big offer. He decided to stay at Alabama and start at right tackle for most of the year. I thought he was really good. I will tell you right now, the kid they got from LSU and the kid they got from South Carolina, I have watched both of them play up close for the entire season last year, and they are not good. That is a big step back they are taking on the offensive line. The defense has been weirdly less effective for a defensive head coach than I expected it to be.
Agreed.
A big thing with A&M is what worked for them so well last year was they went out into the portal. They identified exactly what they needed, which was we need to get 2 receivers. We have a quarterback that we think can play. We have a good offensive coordinator. We're gonna utilize these guys, and we have a little bit of like a Swiss Army knife in one of those receivers. Casey Concepcion was awesome last year. Mario Craver was too, but Casey Concepcion, especially in the return game, that was a huge difference maker. You saw it in the LSU game. It put that game away. He's gone. That offensive coordinator is gone. They replaced him basically with Isaiah Horton, who is a good receiver at Alabama, but he's a much different receiver. He's like a 6'4", 215 guy, not a speedster, not a guy that's going to burn you. That's a very different quarterback or different receiver. We saw it work last year with a quarterback like Marcel Reed, but that was with a different offensive coordinator. The amount of question marks that A&M has this year versus last year are very concerning. And it's way more question marks than they had a year ago. I think they're still going to be a good team. And I, to be honest, this might go over poorly with some Texas fans. I think that he's done the impossible, Elko has, and he's made A&M seem cool. Like, there's a million reasons why they're not when you really break them all down. But that entrance into the stadium, the way he goes about his business, the way he is, the intensity, all that kind of stuff. I love Mike Elko. He's built like Grimace, which is not great for anybody, but he loves football, and that's like what he's about. I just don't think that they're going to be anywhere close to where they were this past year because they don't have that convenient schedule again. They're not going to be able to avoid all of those teams. LSU is going to be better. Some of the teams that you beat are going to be better. I don't think they have Notre Dame. Who do they have this year? Arizona State in the out of conference. But like, I don't see them being able to skate through the league this year like they were a year ago. And I think they're going to take a step back, man.
That's really well said, and I mean, I'll lead with the bad stuff first. Like I like Mike Elko as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that he does things the right way. I love seeing him in the Any Given Saturday or whatever the Netflix doc was, where he's getting on like, or he's getting on like Shamar Stewart or whoever it was, Shamar Turner. Like, he's getting on his ass pretty hard, and that's like A&M, one of their big dogs. I know he had like a lot of NIL investment, 5-star, like yada yada. The guy that's been around, upperclassman. Just showed you, like he's a ball coach. Again, that was what Kevin Sumlin did. Was he made A&M cool again with the help of Johnny Manziel and Mike Evans. I think again they should each have a hand on that trophy, but it's neither here nor there. But he made them cool for a little bit, and that's how you saw recruiting really take off. And A&M was able to get some of the biggest classes, the best classes that they had ever recruited. And I'm not saying A&M is going to sit there and do that year in and year out, but he's off to a good start. Now, eventually, you are going to have to pull off a couple of big wins. Winning the playoff game or just beating Texas last year. You're probably talking about them in a completely different light. But hey, hopefully it is back to reality this year. 8-4. Hey, it definitely could happen because, like you said, man, they escaped through. They got a very fortunate schedule. He pulled the South Carolina game out of their asses.
My God, I forgot about that.
Had to bring it up. Sorry.
I was
gonna let it go,
dude.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Pretty tough, and again, LSU, I think they have to travel to Death Valley 2 years in a row. That's fun.
LSU is going to be so good this year, and I don't like. Here's the big thing too, big picture wise, Cord, for like the entire SEC. Last year there were 5 teams that made the playoff, right? But if you watch the season, it was pretty clear there was no elite teams in the league last year. Every single team was very flawed. Like we thought for a minute maybe Georgia was because of how embarrassing the loss was for Alabama against them in Atlanta.
Yep.
That was brutal. But the week before, remember, they only put up like 64 yards passing against Georgia Tech, and they struggled in that same building, and then they ended up losing to Ole Miss. And Ole Miss was a great story. They played really, really well. But they obviously had a ton of flaws that weren't just Kiffin leaving. I think this year you're going to see some really elite teams, like some really, really elite teams this upcoming season. I think Texas is one of them. I will always have Georgia in that list with anytime Kirby Smart is still the head coach. That's pretty there.
Pretty funny, man.
I think those two are going to be there. I think LSU will be there. And then after that, I think you're going to see some teams that are going to surprise some people, like maybe an Oklahoma, maybe a Tennessee, and maybe another team that'll be, maybe it's A&M. I doubt it will be, but that are going to challenge for a playoff spot.
Can't wait to hang out Texas at LSU.
Are you coming?
Oh, I'll be there, buddy.
Hell yeah.
Come on, man. Arch Manning at Tiger Stadium. Promise not to act like a schoolgirl, whatever. I promise it'll all be fun. But no, man, thanks for being here, Chris. Again, we'll get you on before the season kicks off. Got a lot of off season to get through, my man. But anything else? Any final words for the old IT listeners?
I'll text you later after Traders, brother. I appreciate you having me on.
Trader season. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a great night. Hook 'em horns.